Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to the Scream Scene. I'm Jody Dean. Today, I got a awesome makeup artist here with me. I've been checking out some of this young woman's work, and she is really good. She's been doing some big things. This is Tatjana Bluchel. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I know it's kind of like a short. We just set this up a few days ago, and you got a lot going on right now, don't you?
Yeah, actually, I just kind of got a breather. My June was like overwhelming. I had pickups for 2 features that I worked on a while back, so additional days for those, and then 2 short films and a photo shoot for a poster photo shoot for one of the features. So June was packed. So right now I get like a couple of days off, which is fun and
That
nice,
is awesome. We
relaxing.
got a lot in common. I don't let the grass grow either. Um, well, for anybody that doesn't know, because we're going to have a lot of people that don't know, we're hoping to introduce you to a whole new crowd of people here. Where are you from, and what got you started into doing makeup and everything you do? You might do other stuff, but I know you for your makeup. So just walk us down your path.
I'm originally from Germany. Always wanted to work in the movies. Always dreamed of going to Hollywood. Um, and was an exchange student in the U.S. and really enjoyed being over here. Ended up coming to college here and studied theater and psychology. And then I came out to LA. And I really wasn't 100% sure. I was always in acting, but I wasn't sure exactly where I would fit in. So I got a master's in film production because I was like, well, that gives me a good overview of, how everything works, how film works, what's going on set. Because I grew up with theater, so I didn't have that much film experience. So I didn't like the 9 to 5. I was not an office person, so that was kind of out of question for me. So I kind of mingled back into acting a little bit. And because I was also a dancer, I ended up getting cast a lot as a creature, whether it was a zombie or an alien or something. So I would sit in the chair and get all of this makeup effects applied on me and for hours. But I wasn't the type that would, fall asleep in the chair and just pass out and be like, oh, this is nice, whatever. But I'd be like, oh, what's that? Oh, how do you use that? What are you doing now? What is that? How does that work? And so a lot of my makeup artists were like, you seem really into this. Like, you have a background in art. Like, you might want to do this. And I'm like, okay. So that kind of was that aha moment for me. And so I started dabbling a little bit in beauty makeup and just, trying things out with some photo shoots. And I was like, yeah, this is really like what I was missing, sort of that physical, like art that, I've always painted. I've always done a lot of arts and crafts and just was missing that. And so I went back to school took a few classes and got into FX, worked a little bit in a lab. And and since then, picking up, learning more stuff as I go and from mentors and seeking out mentors and growing and learning every day. But yeah, I founded my own lab, Valley Girls FX, and been doing now makeup for close to 10 years.
Wow, that is a pretty cool story. And of course, I didn't know any of that. I looked at some of the pictures and video that exist out there, and I'm like, wow, she's really freaking good. And I see that you worked on a few features of people that I'm familiar with. But wow, so you got to learn by watching people that a lot of makeup artists will never get to learn. Like they got to go to YouTube, right? Like you got to
Mhm.
be right there on production sets and learning the film part of it is a big help because you understand how the makeup's going to look in the right lighting and the set. So, I mean, at this point now, do you ever wish to still be in that part of it, or are you kind of still in that part of it? Do you ever tell the directors like, hey, I know you got this lighting set this way, but with this kind of makeup, like, are do you not overstep there?
I mean, it depends on the director and how collaborative they are. I've just worked with Michael Cerna on a feature film, and he's, for example, somebody that will um, have a really good collaboration with me. And we also worked with the VFX guy because we shot a lot on green screen. And I always say, I think the best way of doing things is merging the practical and the VFX. And that makes it look seamless. If we just have VFX or just have practical, things just don't look right sometimes. But if you can really merge the two and work with each other and collaborate and be like, okay, do you need this more this way or this lit better or so, to make the VFX then on top of that look amazing. That's like what I love. And Michael, the director, was really gracious with when we did a lot of blood rigs and things. So I'm the one that has to push the blood through a tube. So I'm the one that sees when it comes out and when the actor should swipe a knife or whatever. So he would let me call those kind of shots. He'd be like, okay, you know, it looks great. It's set up correctly. The actors know what they're doing in general, but you need to call it because you're the one in control of the pumping. So it's like, he's like, I don't want to call action because I don't see what you're doing. So
Absolutely.
I'm the one that's sitting there and going 1, 2, 3, and then go.
Yeah.
And so it's great when you have directors that understand that part of it and understand, you know, the limitations and also understand how practical can help the actors. You know, working on green screen, it's great for the actors, but, you know, sometimes it's really like hard for them to imagine and play against a tennis ball or, but actually being able to physically do things. We had somebody stabbing a body. So I'm like, well, I made foam bodies that the actor could actually stab and could put some weight into it and not just have that half fake, like, oh, I'm going to stop right here before I actually hurt the actor that is laying there. No, we had an actual foam body that they could go to town at. And that kind of thing, I think, helps the actor because then they don't have to focus on like, oh my God, I might hurt someone. No, they could actually fully, you know, act out what they were supposed to. So I think, you know, a lot of times I try to talk to the director before and be like, okay, so where are my limitations? What do you want to achieve? How do we want to achieve it? So as long as it's a good collaborative effort, I can say like, hey, you know, suggestion, if we shoot it from this angle, we can trick it better, or we can like fake this better, and make it better for the actor. And like I said, coming from an acting background myself, I think I understand that sometimes the actor does need sort of that extra thing where they don't have to think about, oh my God, I have to imagine this tennis ball being a creature or a zombie attacking me. It's like, if there's actually a zombie there, it will help them, you know, act scared and act appropriately to that.
It looks the best too, you know, with practical. I mean, I know all us horror lovers, you know, that's all we want is practical. We do see a great deal of VFX coming into play. I personally, I don't use them, but I don't frown upon them. And when I see them, sometimes I see it and I am impressed how good they do kind of they sell it to where it's not like overkill. It's not like that, like where it's just like, man, you're taking it away. But I think that's awesome that you run into these pockets of people that you can bring your opinion to. I mean, they're hiring you for a reason, but I don't think till anybody's in that position, they'll understand exactly what we are talking about. Because I do my own effects, so I know how to line up the shot. But it would almost be impossible for a director to get that right if they don't understand effects.
Yeah.
So
and I think understanding also the limitations, you know, we've shot in locations where we had to do a projectile vomit. It was like, okay, great, but we were not allowed to get the bed dirty. We were not allowed to get the walls dirty. We were not allowed to get the floors dirty. It's like, well, then we can't do a projectile vomiting. But we also didn't want to have the actors that had to get vomited on sit there and go, oh, this is gross, you know, like not having something physical. So I placed carefully the vomit on them so they could have something physical that they could touch and smear away and react to and whatnot. But then our VFX person could see, you know, the viscosity, the coloring, the texture of what is, you know, the final result, and then make the projectile vomit against the wall and against everything match exactly what was on the actors. So again, it's that blend. And, you know, if it was just VFX, I think he might have gotten the texture wrong and the actors would have not had anything to act off. And practically we couldn't do it because we had a location that we couldn't get dirty, and that happens frequently. I mean, we've done
Yeah.
it with the mean one. The mean one, we had some limitations with where we could get blood on, so we're shooting in an actual diner. You know, we could get blood on the actors, we could get blood on props, but we couldn't get blood all over the walls.
Yeah.
So it has to be that balance of what can we do practical versus VFX.
And sometimes you only have, when I say this, like, okay, theoretically, you do have more opportunities, but most of the time, without resetting and losing a lot of time and wasting a lot of money, you have one chance to get these effects right because they're trying to run and gun, and they're not planning for you to be there for an extra day to do what you're going to do. So it's kind of like if you might get one or two chances at this thing, and most of the time it is just one chance, right?
Yeah, a lot of times it's just one. And I always, especially when I have somebody from VFX on set, and I always tell them, or even without somebody, I say, you know, let's say we do a throat slice, shoot one clean, shoot one clean, the prosthetic is on there, the slice is there, but we're not running any blood through. Shoot one clean with the knife and everybody acting it out, because if the blood doesn't come out the way that we want,
Right.
you have one that you can give to your VFX guy. We shoot a few clean, then we do it with blood. Sometimes you can reset it, sometimes you can't. But you know, having one clean for your VFX person just for safety, I always try to do that. I always try to tell my actors and my directors that, like, let's do one clean. Because, you know, honestly, it is liquid, it is gravity. Once it's out of the hose, I can control it to the point where the hose ends. Once it's out of there, it's out of my limits. You know, that's physics. I've had a director or a DP, maybe a DP, I think. I had to get blood down somebody's leg, and we put the hose like down the pants, down the shorts, and that's it. We can't put the hose all the way down the leg, naked leg. He goes, oh, can we have it run this way and then curve around the kneecap and then go in I'm like, no, buddy, that's gravity. Like, once it's out, that's it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's helpful to like be able to say like, hey, you know, let's shoot one clean. You have it just for safety. And that's what I try to do, because then, you know, if something goes wrong, you have that. And like you said, sometimes it's a 1 in 10, and you know, we have one chance to get it done with a blood or with an explosion or something like that. So
yeah, it's in some cases, dude, I've run into situations where like I'll have an actor wearing a certain shirt that I haven't ever seen before. So it's like I can't get a double of that shirt. Now I try and always get doubles of all the club, even triples in some situations, just in case we mess something up. But there are just sometimes you cannot, like I mean, I still haven't found these shirts that I've used in some of these films, and I'm like, man, I got so lucky they nailed it on the first time, because that's a heart racer right there. Because at that point, whatever their budget is, it kind of feels like it's on your shoulders right now, and everybody's gonna look at you if it goes wrong, right?
Yep. And I mean, that's where the teamwork comes in for me, the collaboration, like collaborating with wardrobe and being like, okay, so this is a scene where this happens. Do we need it again clean after? Because, you know, then if we need it clean again, you need one that is completely reserved for clean.
Right.
And then again, do we need maybe 2 or 3 just for the gag that we're trying to do? And we're, you know, film, we never shoot in order, rarely shoot in order. So, you know, it can really well happen that we have another clean take after that, something that happened way before that person got killed or got dirty or whatever. So it's like, but that's something that I like talking to the department heads and try to figure things out and try to make things, you know, as practical as possible. And, you know, working with wardrobe, with VFX, with even the DP, and figuring out, you know, hey, you're planning on shooting this in the middle of the day, then I need to get the actor clean again. That will take some time. Is it possible to do that at the end of the day? You know, can we shift things around to make things smoother and easier for everybody? It's not always possible, and you know, it's a give and take, but we try.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I can tell already by your style, you're probably like so awesome to work with because you understand the different parts of it. So that's probably like a dream come true for a lot of people. Like, yo, dude, she understands this, not just the makeup part, because some people can be super dope at makeup, but it doesn't mean that it's going to shoot well or edit well. And to understand that part of it, that's huge. So
Thanks.
let me ask you this question though. Has doing special effects makeup, well, maybe I should ask you this first. What's your favorite kind of makeup to do? I'm hoping you'll say horror. And then if that is the case, has doing makeup made you more of a horror fan than you were when you started out or before you started out?
I would say yes and yes. I do like horror because it's just sometimes really silly fun. Like you get to do some weird, outrageous things. I was on set the other day for reshoots, and it was like, "Oh, how many people are we killing today?" And it was like we had like 7 kills in one day, which was insane. And it was just hustle and like cleaning up blood after blood after blood, and it was so much fun. But you're exhausted by the end, but you're just like, "Wow, this was actually really fun," you know. Um, I'm still a big, sci-fi fan. I do like a lot of action. One of the first 2 movies I actually did, coming out to LA and getting started in FX was a boxing movie and MMA fighting. So I got to do all the bruising and stuff. So I'm a big fan of wounds. I think that's sort of my favorite, which of course in horror you have a ton of wounds. Um, I was pre-med in college, so I think the fascination of like making things look real and I collect old medical tools. I have like a weird antique collection of medical tools. I have a bloodletting tool from the Civil War. So some weird shit like that. I love it. And that fascinates me. And then I did a big action, like a spy thriller that had a lot of fights and a lot of wounds and bruises and cuts and stuff. And that was really fun for me and working with the stunt people. So yes, wounds obviously translate a lot into horror. I like, I just, the one feature that I just did was a big sci-fi feature. But it was very stunt heavy and, had a creature. It had a demon character in it, that I got to design and got to do the prosthetics for and made the prosthetics myself. So that was really fun. But yes, I definitely, horror is fun because there's just so much range, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, where you can do this kind of action and blood and wounds. And um, that's really fun. I think, yes, I probably have become a little bit bigger horror fan because I've always watched horror, but I think now I watch it differently. I watch it, looking at the practical effects and appreciating those and, looking back at, the last, I don't know, I mean, 50 to 100 years of horror films. And, but it's fun to see the horror films now, rewatching certain films and then looking through the credits and you're like, oh my God, I know this person. Or I've worked with this person now. Or we talked the other day and we're friends on Instagram. And it's very different now when I watch something and you're just like, oh, I didn't know he did that or she did that. So that's really fun to me.
That is awesome. And I don't know if I'm the only one like that. I'm sure I'm not. But I love blood and gore effects that are they're just unreal. Like I love the stuff that looks real, but I love that crazy shit where like somebody's arm's gonna get chopped off and the blood's, unrealistically shooting 14 feet. Um
I
do
just
you
did that in my garage.
so do you have an appreciation for that, or is that overkill to you?
No, I mean, I literally just did that in my garage. About a year ago, my husband and I have also a production company. He directs, and then I do effects, and we produce together. And we produced a short film that is hopefully going to film festivals now. Um, and in that one, we were talking when we were writing it, and he was writing the script, and he's like, "What are some of the kills that you want to do?" And I'm like, "Well, so we have a throat slice because you kind of have to have that. It's kind of a classic. We have a guts spilling out, which is just a fun effect to do. And we have an arm rip off. And we shot the arm rip off in our own garage because we were like, well, then we don't have to worry about the blood going anywhere. And I had a water extinguisher. So not just a little like, pump. No, we used the water extinguisher, filled it up halfway with blood and went for it, and did a nice, Tarantino style spray across the entire garage wall. With our actor, with the stump and the arm behind and just, going at it. About a month or so ago, we cleaned behind our laundry and we still found blood back there.
Wow.
About a year later. So it went everywhere. But it looks really cool. It looks really cool on camera.
Exaggerated is so great, man.
Yeah.
There's a few films that stick out to me, but like a lot of times when I would watch like a Hatchet film, I would just be like, this is so freaking great. Like, to the point to where like I've kind of incorporated little things like that. Like I'm trying to stay away from like the comedy part of it. But I think sometimes with horror films, the best horror films, we kind of laugh at the part because it's just like it's silly, but it also still scares you.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like it's really cool. It's weirdly cool.
Well, I feel like there's like such iconic moments now that were either accidental or are completely unrealistic. I mean, the Halloween, the Michael Myers, like having somebody like just with the knife against the door. We have Friday the 13th, against the door. The arrow through Kevin Bacon's, neck, and the fact that he was twisting it because it wasn't coming out. I mean, it's some iconic moments that are so over the top, but they've become iconic because of that. I feel like if the arrow thing would have gone through and it would have sprayed, it would have been cool. But I think the fact that a lot of people know that story, that it didn't work right away and they had to twist it a little bit and then the blood came out, that adds to it. That adds to like that it's fun and that it's silly and over the top. But it was also a really great horror film and a really great, Tom Savini, great effects artist for that. So yeah, I think sometimes the kind of unexpected, over the top, silly things can turn into some weird, iconic moments.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Have you been in the position to where you've had something pop up pretty quickly out of nowhere? Hey, we got this going on today or tomorrow. And have you amazed yourself of what you can do with so little? Like maybe just a little palette, like you can make somebody look really messed up with just a few different colors. Like even just using your hands as rubbing things in, like blending.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that happens all the time. There's, all the time something like, hey, can we change this? Hey, can we do this? Is this possible? And that's part of what I love about the job, is the sort of problem solving and getting creative and coming up with things. I mean, honestly, the reshoots I just did on this one feature, because we had so many kills. But like I said, the director let me be a little creative myself and let me be like, hey, how about this kill? How about this version? How about this? But I had like a week notice to do a lot of those things, including making a female and a male torso that we could stab. So I was in my garage making full molds and making then full foam runs of, torsos that we could use for stabbing. And then when we had the male torso, we had like a blood tube from underneath that we could stab and then the blood would come out. So yeah, that was like a week notice, and it was crazy. But I was sitting there and I was like, wow, we actually pulled it off. And I pulled it off, and I had my assistant Cassie White with me, and she was fantastic. And it's, it was crazy. And we were on set, and he's like, hey, we have another person that, a wardrobe gal, she wants to be killed. Can we come up with something else today? And I'm like, sure. So, we come up with another kill quick. What else can we do? Oh, maybe stab her in the forehead and then have a blood tube here, and then yay, then we can get some blood over her. Great. Okay, let's do it.
Chaos is the name of the game when you're talking films, which is crazy. So you obviously, I'm sure as a makeup artist, as owning your own business and everything that you guys do, you're probably willing to go anywhere, or maybe you have. Um, is there a specific place you prefer to work? Does a majority of your work happen on the West Coast, or do you spend a lot of time in New Orleans? Do you head up north over to the east?
I honestly have done most of my work only in LA. I haven't really done too many travel jobs. You know, here and there coming outside of LA. I've shot like out in the desert a bunch of times, and I have a potential, it's not 100% set yet, that would be shooting up in the mountains in a cabin. So stuff like that. But I haven't really like fully shot out of state. So most of my work is right now Southern California based. But you know, I'm always up for shenanigans anywhere. I'm a dual citizen. I can travel anywhere. I have my passports. I'm like I can take off at a moment's notice.
That's really cool. I'll definitely keep that in mind too. I got this problem where I feel like I've got to do everything on my projects, but I want the day to come to where I can just trust somebody else and say, hey, this is what I would love for you to do. Let me just focus on the camera work and the lighting. But you know how it is with special effects makeup artists. But it sounds like you can do some shit that I can't do. Like one thing I've never been able to pick up really is making prosthetics. Like I can make something look like a prosthetic, but like there's a whole art to that, like the molding and the casting. And
Yeah.
like how hard was that for you to pick up, or is it something you've mastered to date?
I mean, I feel like you always learn, and there's always new innovations and new techniques that people come up with. And currently I don't have an oven in my garage in my lab, so I don't do foam prosthetics. So currently I just do prostate transfers and encapsulated prostate transfers and silicone. But I currently don't do any foam latex because that requires an oven. So it's like you work with what you got, what you can do. And that's what I can do right now. And, maybe down the line I'll get an oven, but honestly, I mean, foam oven or foam latex is kind of, not as used anymore. It's
I
a
was
lot
gonna
more
say,
silicone and, it is still great for when you have something big, if you need a big creature suit, you need to build up stuff and build up pieces over the head or so, because that's lightweight. And you can't do that with silicone because that would just be way too heavy. But for small things, and the prosthetics that I did for this movie called Project Child, that was a sci-fi movie, and we had this demon character, and he was supposed to sort of, I don't know, like the description we use sort of for like burn from the inside, and so his entire skin looked a little bit, Freddy-ish, but it wasn't like burns from the outside. It was like burn scars and like almost like a golden like red glow, and he was always backlit with red, so it was very much like that anger personified into his skin. And those ones were all prostate transfers. So I made 9 prosthetics for him, 9 pieces. And our actor was great because he didn't have any hair. So it was like we had pieces all over his head and down his neck. And it looked great and it was fun, but it was all prostate transfers. And we shot, I think, about 10 days with him in the full makeup. So I made, I guess, 90 prosthetics.
good.
So
That's a lot.
yeah.
That's
So
impressive.
that was fun, but that was one of the processes where you start out and like you made the first run and something didn't work and something didn't pull out right. But seeking out mentors myself, I was able to reach out to a few people and be like, hey, this isn't working. Do you have any tips? So big shout out to Aaron Kruger Makesh and Howard Berger, who graciously answered me on Instagram and text messages and saying like, hey, try this, try that. And then it worked. And so, in the process of doing things, you learn things. And I think, especially in the effects community, there's a little bit more of that sharing. Um, I don't know. I don't do, editorials and fashion, high fashion and stuff. I don't know how that world works and how that world is, how collaborative that is. But I know in the special makeup effects community, it's very like sharing techniques and, hey, this worked for me, try this. And so that was great. And I learned in that process. So by, number 90 that I pulled out of the mold, they looked great. And I got really excited. And Cassie White was also my key on that one. And then I had a couple more assistants on that. And everybody was like, as we were removing it at night, we were like, crap, the edges are too good. We can't find like how to remove it, because we couldn't find the edge because they were so paper thin and so perfect that I was just like, oh, this is cool, to see that I was able to, like, over all of these, like, multiple times doing it, perfect it so much that we had a hard time removing it because they were too good. So that was fun to see that.
What kind of, or let me say this, what are some titles that people maybe watching this could look at to see some of your work, short films or feature? Like, are there some things that they should definitely check out if they want to see some of your heavy duty effect stuff you've done?
Well, there's a couple that are still in post-production. So there's 2 features that I just did, Return to Fear and Project Child. They're, we just did reshoots this past month and some pickups. So hopefully they're coming out soon. Obviously, they're pretty close to done with the edit, because then that's how they knew that they needed a couple of little additions. So we'll see when that happens. I'm not 100% sure, but keep an eye out for those 2. The Mean One.
Yeah.
The Mean One, I believe, is on Prime or Showtime. Stars right now, I think.
I've seen it. I believe on Stars. Yeah.
Yeah. That was obviously, I did the makeup for The Mean One, which was David Howard Thornton from the Terrifier franchise, who's an absolute sweetheart, and I love him. And Ashley Teal did all the other makeup for that. She did all the beauty makeup for that film, and she also did all the smaller effects and small blood things, which, again, when I was on set, I helped her out for those days too, which was, fun. There was no like, you do this and I do this. There was like, hey, I'm busy doing an actor right now. Can you throw some blood over there? Like, that's the great collaborative effort again. So that, and then, well, my husband and I have our own production company, Black Cat Productions, and we're on Instagram, black.cat.productions. And we have a website, blackcatproductions.net. We have a couple of short films online that actually won a few awards. That was fun. One that, well, we shot 4 of them during the pandemic, which was really an adventure. So 2 of which are me acting with my cats.
Oh, wow.
So that was fun. One of them we won Best Acting. I'm still not convinced that I won Best of Acting. I think it might have been my cat. I don't know. They didn't tell us who won it. But then there was another one that my friend Emily was the actress, and she did a phenomenal job. She won a Best Acting award. My husband won a Best, I think it was script for that one, or Best Directing. And I won Best Effects. That's a really fun one. It's called Influencer. Don't watch that on a full stomach. That's all I'll say. We've had a couple of people like gag and run away, so that was fun. What else? Well, my first movie, Underdog. Underdog was the MMA fighting one. I believe that's also on Prime, if I'm not mistaken. And then with the same director, I did a movie called Weekend Warriors, where I only did a little bit of the shoot. They shot a lot of it in, I believe, South Carolina, but they did a couple of scenes here in LA where we got to shoot with a bear, an actual grizzly, which was so phenomenal. Such a cool experience. And I got to do the bear wound and the bite and claws. And so that was really cool. But yes, working with a bear, that was pretty phenomenal. Have
you got to work with or who would you say the most you've worked with some famous people. You can't do this job out in California and not work with famous people here and there. And I think some actors are more famous than people realize too. Like I've noticed that there's a lot of actors that, like, when you go down the rabbit hole, like their resume is just so huge, but they might not have like that A-list status out there, but yet and still they kind of do in a way. Like it's almost
Yeah.
like the horror films with their cult followings. Like some of these actors, man, they might
Yeah.
not be on that first list, but dude, they pack a punch. So has there been some people that are pretty big that you've done makeup for, with, on, or even been on set with?
Yeah. Well, I think as far as like more the mainstream A-list, I got to work on Brooke Shields. I got to do actually for that one. I did her hair. It was for a film, and that was nice. And she's so sweet. She is such a sweetheart, and just absolutely stunning in person. So that was really great. And then as far as in the horror community, I got to work with Bonnie Aarons, who's of course known as the Nun.
Very cool.
Absolutely a sweetheart too. Like, oh my God, she was so great to work with. Just absolutely pleasant. And yes, I absolutely loved working with her. Who else? Well,
Did I
David. Hmm?
did I say that you worked with Kristen Stewart by chance?
Yes. So I did a photo shoot for, it was for Them magazine. And it was for Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien, just came out with their movie, and I got to do all of the background models in that photo shoot. So we said hi. I wasn't doing her makeup, but she had a great team. Katie had her team, but I got to do the 7 background models, and that was really fun. And everybody was really great on that set too. So that was fun. So yeah, Kristen, David, of course, David Howard Thornton from Terrifier, absolutely phenomenal to work with. And I've seen him now a couple of times at conventions, and I always feel bad because just now at Monsterpalooza, he had like a table and had this massive line, and I'm just like walking by and I'm like, oh, hi, David. I just trying to like say hi, like from far away. I'm like, I'm not going to stand in line to say hi. And but he like jumps out from behind the table and runs over to me and hugs me and, how are you? And I was like, I'm trying not to like disrupt your line and everybody's waiting for you. He's like, no, it's fine. And just say hi. And such a great guy. So hopefully I get to work with him a lot more. And then I think for me, one of the cooler ones that I just got to work with was Eileen Dietz, who is the original in Exorcist, the original Pazuzu, the original demon that possesses Linda Blair's character. So that's like such an iconic horror film actress. And I mean, if you look at her resume, it's insane. I mean, but she is so great, and she is so sweet and so funny and has great stories. And yeah, it was great. And she's, in her 80s. But oh my God, the energy she has, and is just so great on set and will not stop and does all these crazy things and is okay and is covered in blood. And she's like, oh, this is fun. And we're trying to take off her makeup at the end of the day. And she's like, I'm going to a screening. I can go like this. Everybody knows that I'm in the horror film anyway, so it's fine. I can go like this. We're like, well, let's just try. And she's like, no, that's fine. I see pictures of her on the red carpet with still half of our like horror makeup on. I'm like, okay.
That is so cool.
So
wow.
yeah.
Is there a particular horror franchise or anything that you dream about working on? Like, I know we all kind of got that one thing. Like, is there one though that really hits you hard? Like for me, it's Wrong Turn. Like any part of Wrong Turn, writing for a Wrong Turn movie, direct, whatever. Is there something that hits you hard like that?
I don't know. I mean, makeup wise, some of the coolest stuff is Hellraiser. I mean, those are some, pretty phenomenal makeups. It's always hard for me because sometimes I'm like, especially with franchises, I'm like, I would have loved to have worked on the first one, maybe the second one, but then you're just like, as it goes further and further, and you're just like, okay, they're maybe not that good anymore. And I'm like, and would I want to be at a revival or so? I'm like, I always feel bad because I'm like, when something gets brought back for like the 20th time, well, because I see behind you Chucky, I think Chucky is one of the exceptions. The
Mhm.
TV show is doing so well, and like the revival of that is kind of phenomenal to see. So maybe that, because that's something that is doing well and is still well received, even though it's been around for so long. I just always feel like some of the franchises just get worse over time. Like I would have loved to have worked on, the first Halloween, the first Hellraiser, the first Friday the 13th, the first, any of them. But Chucky, I think, is still holding up, to that standard, to that level of uh, being surprising and being good, and every time, like, kind of topping what they're doing and bringing the next level of it. So maybe Chucky, that would be fun.
Do you ever, as somebody that does makeup, that's been in the business now, that's doing this full time, do you ever like get a chance to sit back and watch movies? And when you're watching these films, or you're just like, ooh, man, I could have so did that better. Like not on an ego trip way, but just in reality. Like, I mean, I, I even see it with like big budget movies where I'm like, oh man, like I just seen them in the window, there when they were passing the car with the camera. Like there's little things that like even I catch, and I'm like, how did they let that slip? But like, do you see things like that with makeup that are just like, ooh, I could have made those lines better?
Um, I mean, I don't usually say I could have done that better, but I usually say like, oh, I see where the edge of the prosthetics is, or stuff like that. And I mean, when I do it, sometimes then I look behind camera, I'm like, oh crap, I could have done this, blended this better if I had more time. But
Mhm.
then sometimes you have to, like, how it is movie making. You have to have that balance of here's the time, and here's how much I would like to make this pretty, but you have to balance it. And I try to put my foot down at the bare minimum. I'm like, we have to get this much done, otherwise it will look stupid. If I have a little extra time, I can make it look better. If I have a lot extra time, I can make it a lot better. But sometimes you're like, we have 20 minutes to get this done. We have to be out of the location. We're losing sunlight. I was on set the other day and I had to do old age makeup for 2 actors. And we were running a little behind, and I had to knock out those old age makeups in like half the time that I requested for.
Wow.
Literally half the time. And I was by myself. So I'm just like, oh my God, I just throwing these on, and I'm hoping that, with the light, and like one girl had a wig on, so we were like, okay, screw the edges up here, we just stick the wig over, we won't see them. So stuff like that where you have to balance. You're like, am I super happy how it turned out? Maybe not. They thought it was great, and I'm just like, I see the edge. I'm like, I could maybe, if I had another 20 minutes, made that super smooth. But to be realistic, you don't always have the time. So I think, knowing that, I watch movies, I'm like, I see the edge. I'm like, oh, hopefully
Mhm.
it was just because they run out of time. It's not like that I'm saying like they did a shitty job. And sometimes I know that that happens, sometimes you have to hurry. And, but yes, I do notice things. I
Yeah.
do notice when it's like, oh my God, I know that this is a bald cap because it's wrinkling in the back of the head beard, or, things like that. And where it's, I'm like, wow, they had a lot of, this is a big budget thing. I'm like, I feel like they should have had a little extra time, but you just, it's hard to judge when you don't know the backstory.
True.
So I've talked to some big names in the makeup industry, and they're like, yeah, we did this and we ran out of time, or we ran out of daylight, and the actor had a conflicting schedule, so we only had him for that one day, and we had to shoot everything that we had with him that day. And I mean, we did it on the mean one. We had David only a few specific days, so everything that was done with him had to be done in those couple of days. um, that happens. So
Yeah.
it's hard to judge completely. It's easy for me to see things and notice things, but it's hard for me to judge.
Yeah, I think that I mean that's definitely what I mean too. Like I notice everything, but like I still will make mistakes myself, myself obviously. But I just notice every little thing as a not just a filmmaker, but a horror lover. Like as a horror lover, I notice probably I've been noticing these things my whole life before I ever even shot anything. But like now it's really easy, especially with like the cinematography. But you said a little bit ago that you picked up an award. Did you pick up more than one award for your makeup work? And
Yeah, I did one of the short films, the influencer one. I got an award for best effects.
best effects. That's short film feature doesn't really matter when people notice your work and you get credited for it. I mean, how did that make you feel? Like that's got to be pretty
It was
big, huh?
fun. I mean, it was just a small film festival, but it was still kind of cool to see, because seeing all the other, submissions, and I got to see all the other short films that were submitted for that, and it was cool to see that mine stood out. And it was a really fun makeup that I got to do for that one. Again, go to our YouTube channel and watch Influencer, because I don't want to give anything away, but it's a really fun one. And the actors did a phenomenal job portraying what was happening. And that's, again, comes back to, this is a team sport. Filmmaking is really a team sport. It was a great script that my husband wrote and directed it. The actors did a phenomenal job portraying exactly what was happening. So doing my makeup, not saying it was easy, but it was great and fun. And because she portrayed it, I think that took that to the next level. And like, people were like, wow, this looks real, and this, makes you gag and makes you like, oh God, like, don't do that. Um, so again, we elevate each other. If we work together, we elevate each other. And the fact that we all three got awards for that specific short film, I think that shows, because we all elevated each other's work.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I'm so proud of you guys. That's good. I mean, people, you see how many people submit their short films a year, and not everybody's going to win an award. And to get a few different awards, three on one film, that is incredible. So I can't wait to see it myself. Um, is there a specific highlight on your life reel, as far as your life reel and makeup? One proud moment. You can just pick one. Like, what's that moment? Like, you sit down to tell somebody what you do, and they ask you this question. What's the one thing that like hits you hard?
Oh, that's really tough, because I feel like it's not just one moment. It's that process of like, a year ago I couldn't do this and now I can do this, and then another year from now I can probably do this. It's like, it's this growth and this, like, you know the process of everything. And 10 years ago I didn't know anything about this kind of stuff. And then when I was able to work on my first feature, I was super proud of that. Now that I've done The Mean One, which went to theaters and
Good
has
for
gotten
you.
such a cult following, and I got, interviewed by people because of that. And I've gotten, my name is in magazines like Bloody Disgusting online, and mentioned that it was great makeup. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But that was a makeup that was specific, and that was, given to me. And now the short film that I did with my husband, that we're trying to get, into film festivals and then hopefully turn into a feature film, I came up with the creature, and I did that creature from scratch. I designed it. I made the entire outfit. It was a full body suit. It was face prosthetics, wig, headpiece, everything. I designed the entire creature myself, and I'm so proud of that. And I'm so happy how it turned out and how she turned out. And um, it's a female horror villain, which there isn't that many. And that's something that I'm really happy. And we came up with that together, and we were like, we want a female villain. But I always liked them, like, multidimensional characters. I always get, when you look at people like Freddy or Jason, there's a reason for what they're doing, you know, there's a reason why they're killing. They're not just, you know, I mean, yes, there's Michael Myers that was just born evil, but I like the ones that have like a little dimension to them, that they're like, there's a reason behind all of this. And that's for our character. We wanted to have a good reason for her to do the things that she's doing. And that was great to work with that, and to work out all of those gags and all of those kills. And again, the actress elevated that costume so much, and that outfit and the prosthetics and the whole creature came to life because of how she moved as that creature. So yeah, it's not one moment. It's these moments that I can see in time where I'm like, wow, back then I was super proud of that. And then a year later I did that. And then a year later I did that. And now I was able to do a full creature. And I'm like, well, the next step is hopefully bringing that creature to a feature film version. So for me, it's that. It's the growth and the experimenting and the learning new things, and looking back and seeing like how far I've come, but also saying like, I'll never stop growing. I'll never stop learning. I'll always, you know, ask for help from mentors and reach out, and reach out to, you know, fellow makeup artists and say, hey, how did you do this? Can you help me with this? You know, is there a way that I can improve? I will reach out to people in the industry and say, hey, do you mind looking at my portfolio and saying, is there something missing? Is there something that you think I should add to that to make it more well-rounded and more, you know, appealing to people to hire me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind doing that. I don't ever think I'll be too good for that. You know, I think that's when things go wrong, when you think you're too good. I think I always want to keep growing, and that's for me my highlight, is that I've seen growth in myself, and I want to see myself keep growing.
That's awesome. The journey itself is the
Yeah.
highlight, the whole highlight, the whole
Yeah.
journey. No, that's great. And you just said, you know, started this whole thing 10 years ago. Now you've done all these shorts, you've done features, you've worked with some big people, done some great things, won some awards, you got a business established, you're a young woman, you're married, you and your partner are doing something you love together. That is huge. That is winning. That is a huge highlight. So yeah, I don't blame you. It's hard for me too. The journey is very, very what inspires you to keep going and growing. But and now I've seen a lot of pictures of your work, so now I can't wait to see this influencer thing. I'm gonna definitely go check that out. What's next? What should people look forward to coming out? You want to plug the short film? And what I do with
Yeah, the
too.
short film is Glastic, and that's in Gaelic, Green Woman. So that's our creature, a green woman. So that's, hopefully we'll see if it gets into some film festivals. That's the goal, of course. So I'll be announcing if we get into anything. And then, yeah, Return to Fear and Project Child are the two features that I've just completed. Not sure what the timeline is and what happens when they come out and all that. So that's kind of the next big ones. And then I'm signed on to another feature film called Inner Child. Natalie Rodriguez is directing that, and we have some great, phenomenal cast signed on. That's just pending a few things and scheduling, and hopefully we're hoping that happens this year, hopefully. But you know how it is with film, it's always pending like one more thing and scheduling and making sure that everybody's available. And so we'll see when that happens. And a couple of other little things in the works, and a couple of short films coming up. And then my husband and I have a couple more plans for a couple more short films. So we'll see where that leads.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely suggest anybody that watches this, you go down the rabbit hole, you go look up this young lady. I follow her on Instagram. You guys will see. I don't follow a lot of people, so just look at who I follow. She'll be very easy to follow. And she plugged the websites in here and what to find online. I love to bring people back on when they have something else popping down the road, and So I mean, I hope to have you on again in the future, and we can talk about something else, maybe, 6 months down the road. See where you're at, what you're doing, what kind of awards you've picked up then, and I hope there's some good ones. Just stay on here for me for a second. Guys, as always, be sure to check out my guest and follow them online and truly go see what they do, because they do some great stuff. I mean, I'm going to these people and finding these people because I'm impressed with what I'm seeing. And you guys have heard about her journey, so definitely take the time to go check her out. This is the Scream Scene, post every week here. Make sure you smash that thumbs up, comment below, share this on social media. Make sure those notifications are on. Love you guys so much. I'll see you in a few days, but until then, sweet nightmares.